Okay, so we're going to start with Michi's book, his third book, Back Checker Strategy. I'll put it up here. I don't know if you can see. Oh, there we go. No, maybe not. With a very fine cartoon of Michi in his study playing backgammon. So we're back to pretty much checker play for the rest for this book, and it's this. Like Michi's book, it's first the opening concepts book. It's emphasizes sort of proverbs, and particularly with, but it also introduces strategies. This book seems to be actually really innovative in terms of it's far different from what other people have taught. There's very few books on like middle game strategies and things like that. So this one takes steps into that. So let's get on with it. However, the first parts of the book are kind of a review of some of his opening concepts, and just to come through with some things. He's going to talk about anchors and the importance of anchoring. And really goes into splitting and things like that. So just to cover some of his initial things, we have what are called the low anchors, and here's moving around with the yellow checkers on top. The ace point or deuce points, those are considered low anchors. The 3 point he considers the butterfly anchor. I think he made that up. I've never heard of butterfly anchor until Michi started talking about it. And then you have the advanced anchors, which are going to be the 4 point or the 5 point. And so what you'd like to do is get an advanced anchor as soon as you can. And the reason that you want to do that is that it disrupts your opponent's strategies. Now, what does he mean by strategies? Well, the primary strategies are basically racing, which is always a strategy at some point. You've got to get out before your opponent does. But early middle game strategies are priming and blitzing. And so there are things that he's called priming structures and blitzing structures. So the prime, of course, is, a prime. Here's a 4 prime. And effectively, you want to trap your opponent behind the prime. If your opponent is establishing a prime, you want to get up to the edge of the prime so that you can get over it and that you don't get trapped. Blitzing, of course, is simply creating a strong board, hitting you on the bar, and hoping that you dance. Or if you want to blitz, you hope your opponent dances, so that you can close them out, bring your checkers around, and come in safely for a likely gammon. So those are the main strategies. Now, the advanced anchor prevents both strategies, both priming and blitzing, from being effective. If you get up here, it's nearly impossible for black to develop a prime. And even if he does develop the prime, it's very difficult for him to hold it very long, because at some point he's got to bring his checkers in, and that will break his prime. So that advanced anchor prevents that. And obviously, if you have the any anchor, it's difficult to blitz. If you have an advanced anchor, you can generally hold it longer, and then you can escape. It's easier to escape when you need to. Okay, so and that's kind of his introductory part of that. He's got the first 3 chapters are kind of covering those things. They're pretty quick. Then we get into what Michi calls the initial stage of the game. And these are kind of the opening rolls. And what he covers are things that he's covered in opening concepts, but for this book, he sort of consolidated them into what are basically splitting rules. And so I'll remind you, and I'll put this along with videos, this document. And these basically cover all the proverbs relating to splitting rules. And so let's go over them again, and basically we're going to review them with some examples. And yeah, so I one of the criticisms I had with Michi's book, which is not a big criticism for opening concept, was it's far easier to remember all these splitting rules when you think of when is it time to split? Should I split now? Usually it's pretty clear. Early on, you're going to want to split. Sooner you can, usually the better. If you can't do anything constructive with both rolls, but sometimes it gets a little trickier, and it's not clear whether you should split or not. Sometimes you're coming in off the bar, and you have a choice of landing on say you roll a 1 something, and you have a choice of landing on the ace point and making a point there, or coming that's not an ace point, which is effectively a split. So I found it very useful to think of splitting and consolidate all these what I call the splitting rules together and memorize them as a chunk, and that sort of, for me anyway, that makes it easy to memorize. So over on the left side here, we've got all the opening concepts that sort of relate to splitting. And then I've sort of tried to map them out to what I've consolidated into. There are 4 rules, major rules, primary rules on splitting, and 2 that are secondary. And so, most of the time, these will give you a fairly clear idea. Not always. Sometimes you have contradictory. 2 rules that contradict each other, and so you kind of have to make the judgment call. But so just to review these, signs not to split is your opponent has 10 or more checkers in the zone. That's goes back to Michi's proverb. So attacking with 10 checkers is strong, attacking with 8 checkers is weak. So if your opponent has a lot of checkers in the zone, then you run the risk of being blitzed, because he's got the checkers to the ammunition to complete the blitz. If he's only got 8 checkers in the zone, usually Michi says it even stronger, that he can't. You don't need to worry about being blitzed. He can't blitz. He doesn't have the ammunition to do it. So again, 10 checkers in the zone. That's a sign to pause. Now, and the priority of these, generally, it's right to split, and generally, if 2 rules apply, it's usually better to split. Not always, but as a default, that would be better. Secondary, a stacked, what I call a stacked 6 and 8 point. Michi calls this a blitzing structure, as opposed to a priming structure. And generally, we don't want to split into the blitz. And the kind of the reason for that is, if your opponent is stacked on a 6 and 8 point, it's very difficult to get that prime. You can do it, but you need some specific numbers or low doubles to do it. And so if you're splitting into that, your opponent is basically going to have to probably going to hit you loose, which is not terrible, but it could end badly if you dance or if you don't hit him back or something like that. So, take a second thought if he's got a stacked 6 or 8 prime. Signs to split. What I call black checkers are well blocked. This doesn't have a direct translation to the things that Michi said, but although he does, I didn't include the proverb here, but he does point out that always look for a good 6. So by blocked checkers being well blocked, I mean that if you're on, for instance, your opponent has made the bar point, you're do this. For instance, this is well blocked. Ignore the 5 point here. Black has made the bar point, so the back checkers are well blocked. They can't get out with a 5 or a 6. This, something like this is a blitzing structure. Okay. So if you're well blocked, you really need to split to get, to avoid being blocked like that, to avoid it's really a prime that you're getting primed. Opponent has an advanced anchor. That's a really strong indication that the opponent has moved up and you need to get moving up if you haven't yet. And Michi talks a lot about that. He's, and his proverb is counter an advanced anchor with an advanced anchor. A couple things. Michi doesn't mention this third opponent has split with his back checkers. And the major split as long as the minor. Oh, I should tell you, Michi covered the major and the minor split. Major split is basically a 3, 4, or 5 split. This is a minor split. And so my rule says that, if your opponent has done a minor split, has done any split, then you should, that's a sign that you should probably split as well. The minor split is less of a sign, less strong. Less strong of an indicator that you need to split. The stripped 8-point, that's one of Michi's rules. It's kind of a secondary thing, but early on, if your opponent has made like the 4-point, this strip point is a sign that now's a good time to split. And there are other things too. He's only got 8 in zone, so it's a weak position. But the idea is that, okay, he's got a point, innerboard point. And if he's going to point on you or hit you, he's going to have to break his 8-point. And so that forces him to weaken his structure to a certain degree. And this really applies the idea of if you have to leave a shot at some point in a game, and you have a choice, you really generally want to leave that shot against a strip point. The idea being that, okay, if your opponent's going to hit you, that you have to leave a shot anyway, and he's likely to hit you if he can, make him break a point. Because at least there's some cost involved to that. And again, correlate that is, don't step in front of a stacked point, because your opponent wants to both unstack, and if you can hit and unstack, that's even better for him. Okay, so that's all these rules pretty much convert to the what Michi's first major chapter in the book, which is what he calls the initial stage, and this is basically the early opening. So let's go over some of the positions just to remind ourselves of the rules, and we've covered these, or at least some of them, in the opening concepts part, or opening concepts book. So here we have a 3-2 to play, and the important thing here, I think, for if you want to practice and to learn these, well, first of all, I would get, I would print out a copy of a sheet like this and keep it with me if I'm playing online or something like that. And I'm not sure whether I should split it out. First of all, you have to remember, okay, if you have a chance to split, you got to go through the splitting rules. And rather than memorizing them, if you just practice enough, they'll become second nature to you, and you'll see the main things. And then if you go back and look at your matches, and if you've made an error early on that involves splitting, check out which rule you violated, and that's the best way I found to learn this. Now, these aren't 100% accurate. Some of them get a little bit tricky, but I would say 90-95% of the time, if I followed the rule, I would get it right. Or sometimes if they are wrong, it's not wrong by very much. Okay, so here's the 3-2 to play. Obviously we can split or not split. Do we split, and what's the rule that we're looking at here?
8 or less in the zone, so it's a split.
Yep, that's a good one. 8, attacking it with 8 is weak, so that's split. It's actually there. Well, the way that I've characterized it, it's 10 in the zone is you don't split, but we only got 8, so that would be kind of an implicit sign to split. There's one more, and so just stripped 8-point. That's a sign to split. Something that Michi talks about that emphasizes a lot, and I haven't personally found it that useful, is he talks about priming structures and blitzing structures. And so he would call this a priming structure because you've already got these 2 points together, and that a blitzing structure is going to be more like that, where you've got gaps. In addition to stacked points, you've got gaps. So, the idea is here that you want to split for the reason, stripped 8-point. You can think of it as a priming structure if you want. Only 10 in the zone, so that's a good time to split. He'll bring some down eventually. So now a good time to split. And it doesn't really matter which one you split. I think generally when you do split, you're going to want to not split, and usually you don't want to split to the opponent to the point that your opponent wants to make next. So your opponent wants to make the 3-point, so you're going to split to the 2-point. It doesn't really matter that much. If you're going to split if you had the first roll, it's usually right to split to this point, and that's a little bit better than 2 down or the other split. But again, we're talking things that we don't really need to worry about. I'm not going to worry about this 0.009 error. We won't, and really, even if any of those, anything 0.01 or 0.015 is just it's not really worth worrying about getting that one right. We'll try to get early on. We want to avoid the 0.05s or greater, and certainly any of the red ones, any of the blunders, the 0.08s or greater. Okay, that was the first example. Let's go to the next one. So what do we have here? And do we split?
Now we have 10 on the zone, and that looks like a blitzing formation.
Yeah, so let's go through the rules. It's again 10 in the more in the zone. Okay. Yeah, and he got double five. Looks like he got double 5s in the opening roll, which you really can't do, but for this example, it works well enough. But yeah, you got 10 in the zone, sign not to split. Stack 6 and 8-point, not really, but the 8-point is not stripped. So there's an extra checker there. So that's not a sign to split. Back checkers are well blocked. No, they're not. The bar point is open, not well blocked. Opponent does not have an advanced anchor. Opponent has not split his back checkers. So there's one sign not to split and no signs to split here. The answer here is going to be to not split. And this is a sizable error to split. Here's the 2 down. It's even better to slot the 4-point than to do that, which is, I don't think anyone would ever do that. Even the boring 13 to 8 is better than, and we get down to some of the splitting rolls, and these are huge blunders. So again, if you remember those rules, you'll get that one like that right. Okay, 4-3. Do we split here?
Yeah, I think we need to split.
Yeah, and why do we do that?
Well, he has 10 in the zone, that's true, but he also has a stripped anchor. He's building his board out, so if I don't split soon, I'm going to be in big trouble and can't get out. So I would split to the 20 and the 10.
And come down? Okay,
Yeah.
well, let's go through the splitting rules. Opponent has 10 or more in the zone. Okay, that's true. That's a sign not to split. Stacked 6 or 8, not really. So that really doesn't apply. Checkers are well blocked. No. Opponent has advanced anchor. No. Opponent has split his back checkers. No. stripped 8 point. Yes. So
I see an advanced anchor. The 4 point is an advanced anchor. No, it's on the wrong side. Yes,
that's the wrong side. Yeah, that's not an anchor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So here, okay, we've got two that sort of contradict the 10 in the zone versus the stripped 8 point. So 10 in the zone is primary. The stripped 8 point is secondary. So this is a no split. So, and in fact, splitting is a huge blunder here. So now, another way of looking at this too is okay, yes, consult the splitting rules and follow them. 10 in the zone is assigned to 10 in the zone, not contradicted by any of the other rules, is a good strong sign not to do that. In fact, anytime that you see your opponent has not split his checkers, that's usually a sign that you're not desperate to split yours, at least not yet. I mean, you can split them if you have a good option to do that, but it's not imperative, at least not yet. Now here, one of the reasons you don't split is, aside from the rules, is practically Black has the better board, and he's going to hit you loose. And he's with a 3-point board. You could end up dancing easily or not hitting back. And then if you happen to dance, you're in a lot of trouble. And aside from the fact that there's a few numbers that make that point, double fours, double threes, double ones, double fives to hit off the ace. So there's with the 10 in the zone, there's plenty of danger here. And
can we try if Black has the 5-point made, which I probably think might be a split?
I said what? I couldn't hear what you said.
Let's make Black 5-point in my board.
Yeah.
The golden point, and see if it's better to split. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Like that.
Yeah. Let's.
Yeah. So here, I think that let's see. So what are we going to do here? We can split, and we have a strong sign to split. So I think probably we would. But the problem is with the 3, what do we do with the 3? Not much to do. Maybe 6 to 3. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. That's what I don't know. That's my question.
And in this case, it's not to split, mainly because we don't have a good roll here. But here splitting is not the blunder. It's the second best choice, and it's not. We're not in a great spot here. If we had a 4-5, I would think we would split here. Split or run. Now we don't need to split here. That's surprising to me. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still no.
Yeah. So this is one of those tricky ones that do you split or not here? I probably would split here just because I need to do something, but it's not a good, it's not the best rule to split. Actually, the reason this is bad is if you split here, the next roll, Black should double and you should pass.
Yeah, amazing.
And this roll keeps you in the game, but it's not a very good game.
Mm-hmm.
And probably actually Black, the next roll is going to double and you should take, but that's not, you're not in good position here. Okay.
Okay.
Next row to look at. So 6-3 to play. Obviously, we can take 2 down, we can split, we can run.
I would try 13-7, 24-21, maybe.
Yeah, and now why? So we're splitting here.
8 in the zone, stripped 8-point.
Which of the splitting rules are we looking at?
8 in the zone and stripped 8.
Yeah. 8 in the zone, 10, fewer than 10 checkers. So that tells you that there's no reason not to split. This is not even a stripped 8-point. This is an empty 8-point or a blot of the 8-point. Back checkers are not well blocked. That doesn't tell you opponent has advanced anchor. No, opponent hasn't split. So there's really no sign that you have to split here. I'm not sure that I don't know that I would or not. I might do 2 down or I might run. Probably 2 down.
Yeah, I don't think splitting would be good here, because if I don't split, I have builders to build out my prime. Splitting would be purely defensive, and this board doesn't look like I need to play defensive.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is a tough one. You can split. Let's look what the answer is. But you also place yourself under attack by doing so. I'm not sure that that's helpful. Now, the alternative is to run, but you're stepping in front of this stack point. That's not great. 2 down strips your midpoint. That's not great. So I'm not sure. Not sure exactly what the right one is. It is to split or run or 2 down. So yeah, it's any of these 3 are probably good enough to do that. But again, you don't have a strong sign either way. So it actually turned out that splitting is right. It's 2 plus plus. Whoops. So close to that. Yeah. So yeah, splitting is right. Yeah, this is a tricky one, but it's 1.5. Let's let it go. Oh, I see what it is. Actually, yeah, this is one that Michi calls into place. He calls this splitting versus the prime. I don't have it here. And the idea is that, okay, here's a priming structure. So this is one that I usually have ignored, but in this case, this is a good example of it. So you don't want him to make this point or make that point, but you want to get out in front of the prime. And that's the idea. That's what pushes it over into why the split is better than, say, 2 down or running. Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay. What do we do with the 4-5?
I think we split to the 20 and bring the 5 down to the 8. Yeah, again, he has 10 points in the zone, but he has an advanced anchor. So I think splitting is right here.
Yeah,
we don't have a good 4, so I mean that feels like forced.
Yeah, it's the big thing here, advanced anchor. So you really have to split. You got to start moving, and the 4 is the only one that you can do. So you've got to use the 4. And the 5 comes down because you don't have the option of stepping up. You can only, so this is the only 5, and then the only other 5 is 6 to 1, and that's not very good either. So it's advanced anchor is a very strong sign that you need to split, and so you should split, even though you're stepping into the 10 in the zone here. And generally the splitting rules, the signs to split kind of are more primary, are more important than the 10 in the zone rule. Not always, but most of the time. Here's another one. Did we split? Not split?
I think it's probably 13-8-6-4. I'm not sure if I want to split to the 22. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I agree. Even though there is an advanced anchor, I don't think I would split to the 22. I think I would go 6-4.
Okay, well, you got the advanced anchor. That's a strong sign to split. And so you need to split. And 6-4, yeah, I mean, you're stepping up into a mess here. Let's look at just a 5-3. You're stepping up even worse, but you're still stepping up. And I guess, you know, I was expecting it maybe to be not quite so strong, but this 6-3 is a much weaker play than 6-4. So that may be why. 4-5. It's going to be the same thing. Although in this case, the running play, yeah, the running play is stronger because black has no board yet. And if he hits you there, he strips his 8-point and he can't make a point. So that gives advantage to it. But either way, it's split. You got to get your back checkers moving. Let's look at 4-1. And here we're going to move both of them, or even a minor split and one down. The minor split here from 2-1 is from ace to deuce point is safer, and that black doesn't really want to hit off either point. And that gives you a chance, more of a chance to make an advanced anchor or to run out or to make the bar point or something like that. Okay. But again, what was the original one?
5-2.
5-2, yeah. So, you know, so again, advanced anchor, you really need to split, even if it looks a little bit scary here. And it's really, you know, you really shouldn't worry about stepping up here to the 3-point, because if black points on you, now obviously double fives is kind of a disaster here, but you know, even the worst case other than double fives is black points on you. But you know, having made the 3-point is not the worst thing that can happen to you, because you've got the 4 or 5 still open. You can anchor there, and he's only got a 2-point board, so you're likely to come in and you know, not quite get blitzed yet. Okay, we got 2 more to review. And what do we think about the 4-3 here? So you should be looking at this now. What's the first thing you should be looking at? Probably advanced anchor. Strong sign to split. So what else we got? In this case, we've got signs not to split. 10 in the zone, that's not so good. Stacked 6 and 8, that's a glitchy structure, that's not so great. But it's the advanced anchor. So it's advanced anchor versus.
Well, I actually like to cover with the 3 my 1 point, so the 4 would be the question.
Yeah, so that's another question. How do you split? You can come up with either the 4 or the 3. And in this case, you know, if you come up with the 4, what would you do with the 3? Usually when you're splitting, you don't split to the point that the opponent wants to make next. So, you know, you prefer to come to the 4. But in this case, but also, you know, if you've slotted the ace, probably hit your opponent off the ace and he didn't hit you back. Usually you're going to want to make that point as soon as you can, especially when you've got this checker here, which is kind of what's called a dilly builder. I mean, it's not much use that can do other than to cover this point, because the it can't block the back anchor anymore. So anyway, we have this strong sign to split, and we have a couple signs to not split. However, in this case, the splitting is overwhelming, and any roll that doesn't split, well, is bad. This would be bad because you're not adding. You're putting yourself directly under the gun into the 2 points that your opponent wants to make next, and you haven't covered your blot. So the right play is to split up, cover the blot. You get two good things done here. Second best play is to cover the blot and then come down. But again, putting a blot in front of a strip point. But that's almost a blunder to do that. So you really must split here. Again, advanced anchor is a really strong sign that you need to split. Okay, last one. 5-2. And what do we think about this one?
The rules say you should split, but I think stripping my midpoint, going to 8 and 11 is the better play because it helps me make my board. So I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
With a 6-0 or 6-1, I make my 5 point.
Yeah, that's true. But let's look at the rules. And what I suggest you do is have this handy, and when you go back and look at these positions, you make you have a good point. Yeah, you can coming down with 2 will help you make either the 5 for that matter or the bar point, and you'd like to make those points to get your prime. However, you also got to move your back checkers or they're going to get stuck there. And so here we've got black has 10 in the what does black have? Black only has 9 in the zone. So that's not quite a sign to not split yet. There's no stack 6 or 8, so there's no sign not to split. I think you are worried about the fact that he's got the 3-point board, which is something to worry about. But part of this is weighing the alternatives. What's what should I worry about more than what I shouldn't worry about? And here, he doesn't have the checkers in the zone yet to close you out or for you to be that worried about. So there's no sign to not split here. Black checkers are not well blocked, but opponent has an advanced anchor. So that should be a sign now, to everybody that, hey, if my opponent has an advanced anchor and I haven't split yet, or had gotten an advanced anchor, then I need to split. So that's going to be, that's a very strong sign to split. Okay. Stripped 8.2 is a sign to split. Black has the stripped 8 point. That's kind of a lesser factor. So what's the answer? It is to split. And the second best play is, the 2 down, to try to make either the bar point or the 9 point or the 5 point. But even if you make that point, you're allowing black time to make his prime. So anyway, clear. The rules clearly tell you to split, and that's and if you don't split here, it's actually a blunder to not split here. Okay, so that's the end of this section. This is cover chapters 1 through 4, the initial stage, what Michi calls the initial stage, and basically opening moves, and particularly with respect to splitting. So next we'll get into his advanced stage. He calls it, he's got an initial stage, an advanced stage, and the completed stage. And those are kind of the opening to the middle game. And so we'll go through those. Okay. We will stop recording